Hi, this is my discussion for week 5. Um, and thinking about the 7 lenses and which lens would most influence how I would see a family. Um, I kind of felt like for me, that would probably be teleological and sequences, just because I tend to think about um, what is going to be the underlying purpose for the behaviors, and then kind of like understanding where somebody is at is going to probably be the best way to approach it. And then for sequences, that kind of tacks in with that, um, where it tracks reoccurring patterns of interactions. Um, and I think the sequences can also help families see where that disconnect is. And it would be helpful to use that process to dig a little bit deeper for the behaviors that are causing the issue. Um, I was most drawn. Well, I wasn't necessarily drawn to those two most. Um, I just think for me, that's kind of how I navigate situations. Is like, what's causing this? Where did it come from? And then seeing the whole picture is kind of like then to figure out what we can do with that. Um, what I identified most with was more of the developmental lens. Like, I feel like for me, um, I made a response on one of the other students' videos who talked about identifying with that one. And I responded that it's really important to see people where they are and to be able to validate that. Because it doesn't solve any problems by trying to assess something from a different perspective. It has to be really individual to the person you're helping, or it's not going to help them and their family. Um, as far as places where I can grow, definitely multicultural. And I think for me, it's really hard to put myself in the perspective of something I haven't personally experienced. And my family doesn't have a lot of cultural diversity. So I wasn't really, you know, we didn't have a huge priority on religion. We didn't have family traditions. We just kind of did things that were more what the four of us needed. It wasn't really like a cultural, I don't know. Anyway, that's where I struggle, obviously. Like, I'm having a hard time articulating what it even, why I don't have that perspective. But I want to learn more about how to be a little bit more mindful of other people's cultural expectations and situations, because I want to sound more educated and be able to help people and meet them, where they need that support. And then lastly, what is one area of growth? Oh, I think for me, I really enjoyed learning about family history and being able to put that into a visual and do the genogram, and just to kind of like dive in a little bit and figure out who's struggling with what, kind of where this autism and ADHD neurodivergence kind of like pops up around our family. Um, Obviously, I didn't have a ton on that for other generations and people that are no longer living because I can't ask them their experience anymore. Um, but just learning about my family, I can see a lot of like places where the seeds of that may have started. So that was very interesting and very meaningful, and something I will use as a reference point for a lot of different things in my life, and just as a way to connect to my family and like learn a little bit more about myself and my children. So I really enjoyed that. And just overall, I really enjoyed the discussions of this class and the concepts that I learned and a lot of the material that I hadn't had a chance to study yet.